Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Michael Hammer, otherwise known as the notorious MJH. And today we have a U.S. Senator hopeful in our studio with us. Actually, they're on the phone. You guys know better than that. And we have Dolly Miller-Brennan on the line, who's going to co-host the show with me because I live in Virginia and I know very little about Texas politics. So we're all going to learn a lot today. So, Dolly, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can I say hello, Dolly?
Yeah, absolutely. You get a lot of that. I'd like to introduce Andrew Castanuela for Texas State Senate, Reagan Republican, retired from the Air Force. I think he is our new hope in regard to conservative politics. He has a lot of good ideas, and I support him with everything that I possibly can, and I'm hoping that everyone is going to learn a lot from him today regarding his issues and how he feels and where he stands.
Yeah. Thanks, Dolly, and hi, Mike. How's everybody doing out there? It's good to be on board with everybody, especially down here in Texas.
And so, Andrew, in regard to in some areas, of course, I'm Jewish, and everybody knows that. But whether you're Jewish or not is not the issue. It's that Israel seems to be the stability. The key to stability in the Mideast, and so goes Israel, so goes the Mideast, and that affects the United States as well. And today, Fox News was reporting that certain Iranian companies are now paying a bounty, $1,000 on U.S. soldiers and $6,000 on military vehicles. And Syria and Hezbollah have combined to do a war against Israel, and Debka Files reported that the U.S. is now giving warnings to Syria in regard to trying to destabilize Israel or the P8 peace process. And yet Lieberman in Israel has come out today and said there is no peace available, because they're going to keep coming, and even though if we retreat to the 1967 borders, what's going to happen is their goal is to destroy Israel. And then Egyptian TV today announced an Islamic jihadist said, we are going to take over Italy, we're going to take over Europe, and we're going to take over North and South America, and Israel is just a pinpoint on the way in regard to Iran saying the Holocaust is a superstition. So we've got a lot of factors involved here. So as a U.S. Senator, whether from Texas or what state you'd be from, you're still in a position to impact everyone else in the United States. And if you have any views on how you would feel in regard to this administration seeming to be lukewarm on Israel, and that's a compliment to them because I think they're worse than that. But at the very best seem to be lukewarm to Israel and more receptive to Iran.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was in the military, I got stationed over in, actually at that time it still is, United Arab Emirates. And I was doing more escort duty there for third country nationals. So we ended up having to engage with different nationalities, with the majority of them, being, for either from the local Middle Eastern countries there. And the one thing that I kind of found, or I sensed, as I was engaging, with the culture there, is that they have it appears, a very strong sense to only respecting authority. Or strength, I should say. You can do some diplomacy with them, but eventually, until you show your strength and you show your power, so to speak, I haven't seen them kind of really conform to a lot of diplomacy. So, in reference as a United States Senator, without sitting on the Foreign Relations Committee, which would be awesome because then I can get a lot more intel exactly what's going on in the Middle East. I do have some people who kind of give me some information, what's going on internally down there. The first and foremost thing is to support Israel in the sense of as kind of like I see twofold. One is their ability to defend themselves is a position of saying we're able to provide military strength and defend our viewpoints and our borders to maintain some sense of military balance in the region. Okay, that provides the United States, even from a diplomacy perspective, saying, okay, look, you're not going to roll over anybody in the Middle East anymore because now you have one called somewhat of a superpower down there in the Middle East, and that would be Israel. The other thing would be is in order for them to even consider trying to come into peace, so to speak, is that they would end up having to recognize who really has the military strength, or physical strength. And I think that's one thing that Israel represents, and us being able to support them, let them know, look, we got to understand that if we go after Israel, we're also going to bring the United States. And then this is, I think I wrote an article about it just the other day about Obama's withdrawal from Iraq. I said, this has been going on for years within the Middle East, a lot of conflict, and it's not something that's going to be won overnight. We can all judge, President Bush on how come we did go to war or what our motives were. But I will say from a military perspective is that now that we're in the Middle East, now that we have troops in the Middle East, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in UAE, in Kuwait, we have a strength there to put to let them know, look, we're already pre-positioned. So if it wants to get kind of crazy down here, then you got to be ready. We're ready to engage whatever platform of military intervention that we need to use. With Israel also being in there as well, they understand that, okay, hold on now, we just can't roll over like we used to. And then the Middle East is so unstable right now, even between the Muslims, especially some of the, I don't want to call it intel, but some of the information I'm getting within the Saudi Arabians and some of the Egyptians and internally within Iraq and some of the multiculturals and the clerics and the power struggles that are going on in there as well as the Turkish. I think it's important for them to know that as a U.S. senator, that one, the first and foremost thing is that we want diplomacy, but do not be fooled by the fact that we understand you will not come to the table until you have a need to come to the table, and
that's
that will be
very encouraging.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward because and unfortunately, and I'm going to probably go out on a limb here because it goes back to the perspective I don't have all the information and intelligence, but there are also some Muslims who out there who don't kind of who want to change. They're kind of tired of it a little bit, and then they're tired of seeing their sons and their daughter, and all the war that's happening, and they would like some peace even for a period of time. So there are some Muslims who do want that to happen, but you do have some extremists who don't have any concept of diplomacy. There is no compromise, and it's just kind of like it's their way or the highway. Well, then if it's going to be a highway, then I guess it's going to be not even a highway. It's going to be a dirt road because that's what we're going to leave you afterwards.
Your ideas are very encouraging. What you're saying, what I'm hearing, what you're saying is diplomacy, yes, but we also need to provide a strong military force and not go around apologizing, but saying, hey, this is where we stand, and we're going to protect that stand.
Exactly. That's right on the money. I mean, you have to. I mean, this is one thing. And even here in the United States, from our national security perspective, if we cannot defend ourselves, then what good are we? People at a point in time were saying, hey, you don't go mess with the U.S. because, they're pretty bad. And they say the same thing about Israel. You be careful when you go messing with Israel because, you know what, it's just no pushover there. So that, one, they respect that. Okay, and if you get that respect, then you're able to say, okay, now you're willing to talk to me. I mean, how many times have, even from a social perspective, if you really don't respect somebody, are you really going to engage in conversation with them? Are you really going to listen to what they have to say?
Absolutely not.
No, and
I love your Reagan republicanism. Reagan said, if you push a bayonet into someone's belly and you feel steel, you stop. If you feel jelly, you keep going. And I like that concept. And you as a Reagan Republican, I think I'm just very impressed.
Well, and it's just kind of that mentality. I mean, Reagan, he came forward, straightforward. I mean, he was just straightforward with that. But he wasn't, so closed-minded as, but I'm not going to be willing to listen to reason,
No, of course not. Reason and diplomacy are required, but if they fail, they have to recognize that that you're going to stand behind it, such as Iran. We've gone back and forth with Iran, and now they have a nuclear program. So their attitude is so dangerous. It's not the nuclear ability that I find disconcerting. It's the attitude toward their nuclear ability, and I don't see how we're going to change that attitude.
Well, it's going to end up, and this kind of goes back to my, I think I discussed it. Maybe I'm going to share it with you personally, but I'm saying that, from the United States perspective, is for us to come in there and try to provide some sense of diplomacy and a resolution is our chances are probably slim to none, because one is that is in a region where people who have lived there are going to know how to resolve this. And speaking, going back to Iran, that is going to be something that's going to unfortunately have to be resolved internally if there's going to be change in their attitude.
Exactly.
It's not going to be.
I feel very concerned that they will walk in and pick up the vacuum in Iraq. I feel as if now is not the time that we should actually be leaving. Not that we shouldn't be phasing out, but George Bush had said we're going to phase out. So we're kind of following his plan. We're just not giving him credit for it. But I fear that Iran will pick up the vacuum in there, and we're going to have an Iranian foothold in Iraq.
Well, yes, but the other thing is going back to how complex that whole region is that even other countries aren't crazy. Middle Eastern countries, let me phrase that, aren't crazy about having a strong Iranian influence, and especially a nuclear Iranian influence.
Absolutely.
So there's. You just end up having to work with those other countries to kind of make it happen. But understanding first and foremost is that with every action, there's a reaction, so you better be ready for whatever choices you do make.
That's a very good sign. Hey, Mike.
There you go.
Yeah, what's happening with you here? How do you feel about this?
Oh, well, am I on now? I have my mic muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was speaking to a Marine the other day who about the Obama pulling the troops out. He feels like it's too soon, and he brought up a very good point about all the people who went and fought and died for somebody else's freedom. Was that in vain?
What do you think, Andrew?
I didn't hear that last part. It was what?
Well, okay. Over the past, what's been like 7 years that we've been involved in Iraq, not counting Desert Storm, that, all these Marines and Army, all the U.S. services and Britain and all the people who have fought over there and died for somebody else's freedom, and now Obama's pulling the troops out before we actually finish the job. And this particular Marine who was talking to me about this, he kind of felt like that his brothers who died over there kind of might have done it in vain, being we're not going to stay in there long enough to finish things. Or do you feel like things are finished?
And it goes back to, I think, as a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, he's retired from the service, an old supervisor of mine emailed me on an article I posted on my Facebook about the position of the withdrawal from Iraq. And, of course, he was giving more of the political perspective, and I'm kind of thinking, well, the concern here is what do we classify or what do we quantify or qualify, if we're looking at it from that perspective, success in Iraq, What were our true motives in going to Iraq,
That's a really good question.
Because
I mean, you really know that.
Well, and I think I only asked that question is because if our motive was for WMD and we took care of that metric from a quantitative perspective, well, then we achieved our mission. If our position was to stabilize the world economy based upon the production of oil or controlling the oil, and we want to quantify that or qualify that, saying, has that happened? Well, I don't know. If our mission was to present ourselves or position ourselves in a way to control diplomacy and somewhat peace in the region, then you'd have to question, have we done that? Or was our mission or it directed towards bringing, and I hate using this word, but democracy to Iraq? Did we do that or did we do that? And I say democracy because, that word's been used so often these past few decades And actually, I'm even reading the Coville's Democracy in America as well. It's not democracy. We're not a democratic government. We're a republic. And actually, when you look at Iraq, it looks like we're trying to establish a republic as well, where they elect representatives, and those representatives make decisions about, the governing of their country. Okay? If that was our motive and our decision, then where are we with that? Or was it even going from a different perspective, from a neo-colonialism and saying, okay, our job was to expand, capitalistic markets in the region and stuff like that? Did we do that? Because the military in there.
Sorry, it's a war on terrorism. I mean, what's the war on terrorism? And they're also pulling the troops out of Afghanistan, while Afghanistan is still using their soil to train terrorists to go against Israel, the United States, whoever else they feel like going against.
Mm-hmm. And here's I think the question was, did we go in there for terrorism? Is that terrorist? Was that your question?
That's what when we first started Operation Desert Freedom, that's what it was supposed. It was a war on terrorism, or was it? I thought that's what it was. That's what they said on TV.
Well, the connection was, and this is where it goes back to. I'm not on the Senate Intelligence Committee or with the CIA and have all the information, but if we rely on the information that both the government as well as hopefully private industry is supposed to give us, is that there was supposed to be a connection between Al-Qaeda and some terrorists in Iraq. But the other thing was is the fear of having, at that time, supposedly Saddam Hussein, trying to acquire nuclear weapons as well to probably use, within the theater. So it's more going back to that Bush doctrine perspective and say, hey, look, if we see the threat, then we should have the ability to go ahead and protect our interests and our security. And I think that was the cover page of a book to say this is why we're going in here to protect us from nuclear Iraq, and then maybe using WMD within the theater. And of course we know that they're also housing possibly some terrorists in there, so we want to go ahead and do that. And it's kind of like I said, history will judge 8 years from now what the reasons we went in there or not. The reality, though, is we're in there now. So what is our objective, whether it's for national security, whether it's for economic security, or whatever it may be? What is our objective of being in Iraq? And
right now, our real threat is with Iran and Israel. And, that's the threat. I mean, that pertains to the whole world, not just the Middle East. And,
yes, it certainly does.
It really does. And Israel is our greatest ally. And we've always been friends with Israel as far back as I can remember, and we need to remain friends with Israel. Mm-hmm. And if Israel needs us to come to their defense, we need to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And here's where the waffling may come, is because, the fear is that kind of gets painted, I think, in my opinion, the fear that gets painted is, well, if you go in and you let Israel go ahead and handle the Iranians and their nuclear situation, it's going to cause, a Middle Eastern kind of conflict, and everything is going to cause World War III. But if the United States go in there and they bomb them, well, you're still going to create this conflict within the Middle Eastern, the Muslim country, and they're going to come after you. Well, I'm not sure if that's the truth or not. I think it's more or less the fact of saying, well, what did the Russians feel about it? What did the Chinese feel about it? What are these other big superpowers? How are they going to respond if we do this?
Andrew, I think you made a point before that I took very well when you said there are other Arab nations that are saying we don't want a strong Iran, so allowing Israel, and I hate to say allowing Israel, how in the world would we like it if somebody said Russia will allow you to do it? So if Israel went in and took care of her security with Iran, I see that as doing nothing but helping world stability.
And you're absolutely, well, I can't say absolutely, but I would say that more of those hypothetical scenarios that's getting painted that you're going to have a Muslim uprising is probably not true. I mean, because they don't, like I said, really want a strong Iranian nuclear influence there. And I think once again, I'll say hypothetically, Israel goes and takes out the nuclear sites in Iran. Okay, if they did that, I don't think anybody within the Middle Eastern, well, I don't think anybody, a majority of the Middle Eastern countries will not be too upset because they know they're trying to stabilize the region. Okay, but
Mike?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Mike, what are your opinions on this?
Well, what I was just thinking, and this is just listening to you guys talk, I was just thinking that if we had the NADs to go into Iraq, because we thought they were weapons of mass destruction, what's stopping us from having the NADs to go into Iran and take care of that issue?
Honestly.
I mean, that's just what was going through my mind as I was listening to the past couple of minutes of this conversation.
Yeah, and you know what you make, and that is probably the argument that some military leaders are probably looking and saying, hey, you know what, we're here. It's kind of like George Patton back in World War II. You know what, we're already here. Let's just go ahead and finish it off. Kind of mentality. But I think this is.
I don't mean to come off like a warmonger, but I'm looking at well, if we did it with Iraq, I don't know. Are we pantying out when it comes to Iran?
Well, go ahead.
Or did we learn messing with the Muslims? I mean, we didn't get our butts kicked, but we didn't kick their butts either.
It seems to me like we're fighting a politically correct war, and we're not. It is a war, and we're trying to be politically correct. If we had been politically correct in World War II, we'd all be speaking German, or Japanese.
Yeah.
Truman was not politically correct when he ended the war, but he ensured world stability and world peace. So it seems like we've given into political correctness, and because of that, we're not fighting it correctly. We're tying the hands of our military personnel.
Don't even get me started about politically correct, because what's going on here in America, where we have to bow down and kiss the behinds of every minority who wants special privileges. People are going to come from foreign countries. I'm not going to mention any names. It's not specific to one. But people are going to come over here and tell us we can't say we can't say God in the Pledge of Allegiance. And, we can't have praying hands in the Ten Commandments in front of the courthouse. And, that all that nonsense just burns me up.
Well, this takes me back to when I was a child. My daddy was half Indian. My mother was Sephardic Jew, and Daddy was half Ashkenazim and half Cherokee Indian. And he was in a discussion once with some of the elders. I must have been about 13. It certainly made an impression on me. He said, you lost the war, get over it. In other words, what he was saying is, pick yourself up and move on. You are responsible for yourself. Don't sit there and wait for reparations. Pick yourself up and move on.
Good advice.
Yeah, and that's right on. I think I agree exactly what you're saying, Mike and Dolly, and I'm right there with you. I mean, and it's unfortunate that's the kind of society we've kind of come into the United States. Is we're looking for more of a handout instead of picking ourselves up and making it happen for ourselves.
All of that takes us in. That's a wonderful inlet into our economic status. We've become a nation of, we've become a nation that we need benefits. People expect things from us. And look at Greece, how Greece folded, because 60% of the people work for the government. So how is that going to feed the rest of the country? You only had 40% in a private economy. They're paying the wages of 60%. The government was bound to fold. Is this what we're going to have, an entitlement nation where everybody works for the government? That seems to be the only sector of employment that has grown, as in Greece, when you have 40% of the people in private economy supporting 60% of the people on a government economy, plus the underprivileged, well, maybe that's a poor choice of words, but plus those who are on entitlements, you can't survive as a nation.
No. We economically, and I was just reading that article on the LA Times as well about how we're looking at a long-term unemployment here. It's taking massive jobs are trying to make this happen. And it's funny because I kind of think back in the 1992 elections, and then people kind of say, "Oh no, not the '92," when you had Ross Perot running Bush and you had Clinton. And I know Ross Perot was pushing at that time. He's saying, "Look, we need to stop. We need to start putting money in R&D. We need to start, looking at the manufacturing as an economy. If not, we're going to turn ourselves into a service economy." And when you look back now, here we are, 20 years later, and we're almost to some great degree, a service economy, whether the government's providing that service or whether we are just, providing, food services or all these health services or whatever it may be, that we hardly get back to the manufacturing database. In order to get us back to where we need to be, we need to start really looking at developing or manufacturing products that the world really needs and wants, versus just trying to create on the latest generation of textiles or whatever it may be. We need to be thinking ahead, visionary. That's one thing that I think is that I believe is going to help the economy, at least at this day.
Oh, I believe this so much because especially you touched on a core belief in the manufacturing economy, and you hear people say, well, we're no longer a manufacturing economy, we've moved on. There's still a manufacturing economy. We've moved them out into other countries. We've taken them from here. You still have to manufacture an automobile. A computer still won't do it. You still have to manufacture major appliances. You still have to manufacture clothing items, but we've moved all of these economies out into other nations, these manufacturing industries, out to other nations. So that just hit on a core problem in the U.S., and they're buying into this when we're being told we're no longer a manufacturing economy, we're growing, and that no longer applies in today's world. Well, it is applicable in today's world because China's a manufacturing economy, Japan's a manufacturing economy. In South America, they're manufacturing. In India, they're manufacturing, and they're manufacturing our products.
Exactly, to sell right back to us. And how come they're doing it is because, in a lot of ways, government itself lends itself to hurt business in that perspective. I'll give you an example. I went and toured a manufacturing industry here in the town I live at, and they actually work on the inside of the windmills. Okay, we're big on this windmill push as far as an energy source. Well, when the stimulus package came out, it was supposed to be a contract. Okay, and the contract would eventually be awarded to somebody in the American economy or American sector. Well, they went ahead and changed it to a grant. Well, once it became a grant, then the Chinese got the grant, and they end up getting 70% of that 70% of that stimulus money. Now, that stimulus money was supposed to be generating American jobs, but it didn't.
That's a valuable point.
Exactly, and our own government is hurting business. That's what kind of frustrates me is that whether it's our tax system or our tax laws and how we're trying to hurt entrepreneurship here is not helping our economy any. That's what one of the
taxing small businesses doesn't help either.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, take for instance under the health care bill, all right, which I don't know what
overtaxing, I should say.
One of the addendums on the health care bill was that any employer who provides health insurance for their employees, okay, is now going to have to start claiming on the employee's W-2 as income when they file their taxes the following year. So if you make, say $30,000 a year, and the employer gives you $5,000 on health insurance, well, guess what your W-2 is going to say? $30,000 in wages and salaries, $5,000 in a specific block of W-2, so you made $35,000. That's going to maybe put people in a different tax bracket now, which means we already know
that's kind of the same way it has been. A little different, though, because, like, when you work for a company, they usually deduct, they might give it to you for free, but a lot of companies, they'll split it with you or something like that, and they deduct it from your pay. But when you do your taxes at the end of the year, that's not tax deductible. So if you made $35,000 last year and $2,000 of it went for medical care, you're still taxed the whole $35,000. I mean, that's the way it's always been. So now I guess they're just doing it a little different where they're adding it to your salary.
They're adding it to the W-2, and I'm thinking back for instance, I have my employer who pays me my health insurance. It costs him $435 a month for insurance on me alone. I don't pay anything into it. Of course, I elected not to have it because I have my military insurance. So next year, well, actually, he did give me the choice. He said, okay. Well, now I guess you're right. Now I don't have a choice. With the new health care plan, I should have got it. But he at that time, because I had my military insurance of retirement, I said, well, you know what, I'm going to go and use my TRICARE, and you can go ahead and do it because it costs me more to use your insurance at $40 deductible. I mean, $40 a visit every time I go see the doctor versus what I'm paying, to pay the doctor. But when I remember filing my taxes before, it was that you would end up listing your wages and salaries and earned income, and then on your deductions you would list how much you end up paying in medical expenses. Okay, I never saw that added up as part of income.
And now it's income.
The co-payments, no, but. Like I said, if you work for a company and they covered your health care and they took, let's say they only covered half of it, they didn't pay for the whole thing. So they took out whatever they took out, that wasn't tax deductible. So you might have had $50 a week taken out of your paycheck. At the end of the year, that adds up to, $2,500 roughly. So at the end of the year, like I said, if you made $35,000 that year, well, you don't only pay for $3,250 because of the $1,200 that they built for health care. You still had to pay taxes on that $1,200. So I'm not sure what the difference is now.
And it might have been because I had never been work for a company to pay for my health insurance other than the military.
Now, with Obama, I think the best thing about this health care plan is that the insurance companies can't refuse people who have pre-existing conditions. But outside of that, forcing small businesses that barely can afford to, most small businesses go under in 2 years. It's 2 years before they make a profit at all, And to force them to have to pay health care right off the bat, it could break them, put them out of business. And, then they're trying to tax them more than major corporations. And, it just doesn't really make sense the way they're doing the tax structure, or at least the way they're talking about doing it. The Democrats, so, those darn. I heard I was actually doing a little bit of research for this show, and, I was looking up Texas and the senators there, and, let's just hop from one thing to another. I came across a YouTube video with, it was from 1961, with Ronald Reagan talking about socialized medicine, which is basically, listening to that, and I posted it on my blog if you want to check it out. Listening to that, it was like, it was like he was talking about the same thing. He could have been talking about exactly what's going on today with this health care bill. Only difference was he was talking about different names. The names were different. That was it. It sounded verbatim to what's going on right now with this health care bill. And yeah, I was looking up Reagan because I saw that you're a Reagan Republican.
Yeah. Can't throw people off.
So is that something you labeled yourself, or is there actually like an official
an actual organization or party and stuff? No, I actually I whether I got a site out here. If there is one out there, I was not aware of one, but I called it myself. So because one, I am a Republican, but I do. I believe in more the Reagan's perspective, or Reagan conservative.
Subscribe to the Reagan views, more conservative than not more conservative, and we really need some conservatives in office right now.
Exactly.
We've gone the other way, and besides, I've been over there, been there, done that, and they don't need to tell me what they're doing. I know what they're doing. So that concerns me greatly, and. And what's happening in Texas right now with the Texas politics? I noticed who is that, let me see, that came out on the radio program, Michael Berry.
Michael Berry. Hadn't heard of is he running for office or is he a radio host?
No, he's a radio host.
Okay.
And it's Michael Berry, and again, he was speaking about what was happening in Texas, what was happening in Houston, and the crime, and so on and so forth, and saying, hey, you've got to get out, you got to fight this.
Well,
in regard to Mr. Obama, and I don't call him president because I didn't vote for him. Mr. Obama has not been good to Texas.
I know he's Mr. Obama. I was at a speech not too long ago. Well, actually, I was at a debate. We thought we were going to have a special election this year until Senator Hutchinson decided to go ahead and stay in the remainder of her time. And I was doing this debate, and at that time it was Roger Williams, the Republican candidates. And when you're in the military, you kind of lose a lot of your civil liberties that people don't realize, and one of them is the freedom of speech. You cannot talk negatively against the commander-in-chief, or you will be prosecuted, or any other authority in position, so to speak. So when I was in this debate, I ended up being, I kind of got a little too more emotional in the process, and I said, well, that SOB that we have in the White House. Now, SOB can stand for a lot of things. Actually, my wife likes to call it a son of a biscuit eater.
That's a good old Texas term. My daddy was a yellow dog Republican. Did you ever hear that?
There you
yellow
go.
Dog Republican.
Yeah, we got yellow dogs down here, which are really conservative.
Yeah. In other words, he'd vote for a yellow dog before he'd vote for a Democrat.
But then afterwards, somebody came up to me and goes, you know, as a senatorial candidate, you cannot call the president at SOB. And I said, you know what? I said, I hear what you're saying. I said, but you understand that I haven't been able to speak my piece in 20 years, and I feel I have the right now to go ahead and call him an SOB if I wanted to. And he goes, well, okay, but either then, respect the office. And I said, well, I can respect the office if the person who is running the office respected the office. So,
oh, that's such a good point, because I don't feel Mr. Obama respects that office. And this is what Michael Berry said in KPRC in Houston. You know, he said, I'm taking action. If you're proud to be an American, you need to take action too. Get involved. Find a candidate and get to work. And I found you, so I'm getting to work. Here I am.
That's how American politics is supposed to work. If you don't like any of those candidates out there, run yourself, you know? And, you know, I guess that's what you're doing, Andrew?
Yeah, that's basically, you know, it just, you know, it's not something that, it's not my dream job. And I have no problem accepting the same health care insurance as everybody else selected. And I don't have a problem making a $100,000 pay cut. As long as I'm able to go ahead and pay my rent and make it, you know, pay my bills and, you know, put my 2 girls through college that I'm trying to do right now. You know, pay is not the issue. It's just kind of like, I think I was on a show the other day, and Rachel said, you know, thank you for serving our country and this and that. And I'm kind of like said, you know what? That makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I said, just me personally, as a member who served in the military, because to me it's what you had to do. You know, it's something you do. You're not asking for anything in return. All you're asking is to do your part. And I look at that.
People are so grateful.
We appreciate it. But I know, like I said, for me, it makes me feel very uncomfortable because it's not about me. It's about, you know, what we stand for, what we want to believe, and what we want to protect. You know, and anybody should be able to do that. And the same thing should go, you know, in reference to, you know, the civilian sector, or my civilian sector that I'm part of now, is to do the same thing, is to stand up, do what you got to do to govern your country. I didn't like to get rid of the word politics and just say, you know, government, you know, because when we look at politics, it sounds like a nasty word, saying, oh, all the wheeling and dealing that's going on and all the nastiness and the lying and all that kind of goes with it. And, you know, we need to get away from that. We need to get back to governing our country. And that's where people need to step up.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Politics comes from the word policy, you know, and that's what you're doing. You're setting up policies. You know, you know, a politician becomes a politician, and they get in there feeling and feeling, just like you said. And it's not about setting up policies and maintaining the policies that are already established and enforcing those instead of creating new ones every day, you know. So,
but the funny thing was George Washington a politician, or was he a statesman? When we look back in time,
a politician.
Exactly. In that day, they were more statesmen. They were looking out for the interests of the states, and they, you know, and representing those individuals, you know, and those entities. You know, so and you're right about policy, and maybe that's the biggest concern I have, and especially as I look at, you know, the development of policy significantly from, you know, the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946, which just started establishing so many bureaucracies and policies, even though that's not his intention, but that's what ended up happening. You know, now we have policy for this and policy for that. Well, policy isn't law. You know, policy is just procedure. You know, law is what Congress passes. Policy just tells us how do we continue to comply with that law. Does that kind of make sense? Or you agree or disagree?
That makes a lot of sense. And what concerns me now is we're going into what our forefathers have said, freedom of religion. Now there seems to be a need for freedom from religion, to post a non-religious view, when the 13 colonies, each colony, had their own official religion. And that was the whole point. Any religion you want to be, such as we were turned down from building a synagogue by Ground Zero, and there's a Christian church that wanted to be built, and that was turned down. They said, no, it's too close, it's not a religious site, but yet they're pushing for the mosque. It's, hello, is anybody in there? You know, I mean...
I didn't even hear about the synagogue or the Christian church. I just heard about...
Oh, this was a while back. They wanted to put a synagogue there, and no. And then there was a church that had burned down because the towers had fallen on it, and they wanted to rebuild there, and they were refused. But we can't refuse a mosque. So what we're saying is we're having freedom from religion, except from this religion. And they have a mosque 4 blocks down the street. So we're saying they are allowed to do it, but we, like you said, Mike,
for them.
we can't put up the 10 Commandments. We can't put up the menorah. We can't do any of that, but we can do that. So what I'm seeing is that our freedoms, our liberties, are going to destroy us because we are allowing our enemies to come in and manipulate those freedoms and liberties until we have none.
Well, I'll tell you one that really irked me was a couple of years ago when Walmart stopped saying Merry Christmas or having Christmas sales. They stopped mentioning the word Christmas. That's the one that really irked me, and that's not even government. That's just big business.
It is big business.
So,
yes, and it is frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, look, Christmas is right around the corner, it's like we stopped saying Christmas and there's holidays. Now, I was raised Catholic, so I say Merry Christmas to people. And, like if I know somebody who's Jewish, well, I'll say Happy Hanukkah, and, it's just a matter of courtesy, respect. I don't know. I mean, it's just, that's the way I was brought up. And if you're talking to a bunch of people and you don't know who's what religion, you say Happy Holidays. But now they're trying to make it where you're not supposed to say Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah. You're supposed to say Happy Holidays. There's something wrong if you say Merry Christmas now, and that's what gets me worked up. That's what gets me to do these shows like this. And you should hear some on my other station. They're not so polite.
Well, my late husband, God bless him, was a Catholic. He was a big Catholic. And I'm Jewish. In our house, we had a Christmas tree and a menorah. And to this day, I have one. My girlfriend came over and said, I've got to call the newspaper. There's a Christmas tree in this corner, and there's a menorah over here. Embrace
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, she liked that. I think this is wonderful. My children were raised with both traditions, And now they're trying to take those traditions away from us, except Islam is the only tradition. And I'm not against that. They can have whatever they want, but don't take away mine, too. I think don't have yours over the expense of mine.
And I think you're nailing it on the head. And this is, going back to what I call my old sociology kind of perspective. I don't want to call myself a sociologist because even though I studied a lot in that and got some degree in that, but it would be that, if you're looking at this situation from a society perspective, take away a person's belief in themselves and something greater than themselves, then you have nothing else to believe in other than man or man-made kind of procedures and policies. Through that word again. And I think that is exactly, if there was a hidden agenda somewhere, it's all about taking away the United States' ability to believe in God. The Founding Fathers did want a national religion. But this separation of church and state is nowhere in our Constitution. It is actually in the Treaty of Tripoli that was being proposed at that time, which was saying, look, and it was between the United States and the Muslim nation, and saying, look, the Muslims were saying, all right, but you're a Christian nation. Yes, we are a Christian nation, but we don't have a we're not a national religion, nor do we sponsor national religion. And that's why it got put into the Treaty of Tripoli, so that the Muslims will say, okay, then we can trade with you and all these other things. Since then, we've been beating this door of separation, church and state, separation, church and state. The Founding Fathers just said, look, you have the right to believe in whatever religion you want to. The United States is not going to endorse any religion specifically. But we know, based on history, is that a lot of our our documents are based on Judeo-Christian values and principles.
Well, that's like Mr. Obama came out in support of the mosque, and yet he refused to have a Christmas tree. He said he would call it a holiday tree. But he came out in support of the mosque.
And it goes right back to, here we have the leader of the free world. Notice I said free world, and yet he's not recognizing the freedom of certain religions by saying, "Oh, look, I'm not going to have a Christmas tree. I'm going to have a holiday tree." What are you really telling everybody? It was just kind of like the other thing when he first got into office, and he bowed to the prince. I think.
Oh my God! He bowed to the Arab sheiks and the prince. Hello, kissing their ring.
Well, and that was the one thing that back in our military days, the United States does not bow to anybody, and that's not trying to be that we're arrogant or anything like that. But you represent the people. The people do not bow to any other nation. We are in equal status, but we are not going to bow. So therefore, our flag will fly at the same height, and no flag will fly higher than ours. Because these are all symbolic gestures of saying, look, we're not going to say we succumb to you. Therefore, you own us. No way. We don't bow. That's not even a military thing. Whenever you beat your oppressor, they came before you and they kneeled before you. Said, okay, now you understand who's the man. Well, you know what? We are still the man, and we don't bow. I don't know.
That's a very good point to make.
Yeah, and just back to that freedom of religion thing, or the separation of church and state, I always understood that the reason that was put in place is because when we came over here from England originally, that basically the Catholic Church ran everything over there. And when we came here, we wanted to have a government and then have religion separate, where the religion wasn't controlling the government. And I always thought that's what started the separation of church and state.
Well,
I don't think it's that.
Yeah, the goes back to actually come from the Anglican Church you're talking about from England. And there was concern about the founding fathers is that you didn't want any specific religion, and at that time Catholicism is to come in and take over the government because, the founding fathers had some fear that Catholics were more loyal to the Pope in Rome than they would be to their own country, and that's why they kind of wanted no recognized religion to be put in place.
I think John Kennedy proved that wrong. He proved that, John Kennedy, and the Democrats today have no connection with him. I mean, saying at OSU, he said, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And, and I'm a Republican, this guy's a Democrat. But I think he allayed that fear when he said, hey, you can be Catholic. Your first, your national loyalty is to the United States, and your religion is separate from that. So it goes to what you're saying and Mike is saying. Yes, we can have all religions, and now we're saying we can't.
Yeah, and this goes back to, if I was saying Catholicism in itself, before there was Catholicism, and there was Christianity.
Well, I think what's going on right now is we all can have our different religions. It's just that most of them have to be quiet. And the ones who bombed us a few years ago, we're bending over to kiss their behinds. And
you got that right.
Yeah, but no, and I think about this more often because I look at our society, I look at everything that's going on, and I honestly believe that if we're going to come out of this situation for our country, for the United States of America, it's going to take a lot of us going back to the fundamental principles of our faith in God, because we're going to need His divine intervention here, because the forces are against us. I'm sorry?
It's what this country was built on. I mean, do you think we'd have won the Revolutionary War and all that other stuff? I mean, look back at the Revolutionary War. We were strongly outnumbered. We had no money. They were rich. I mean, just look at the odds. How do we come out of that on top?
Our faith in God, yes. That's what that's so important. I think it really is, and they're trying. I see Mr. Obama as part of that organizational mentality that's trying to take that away from us. You can only have faith in one particular religion. That's okay. That's why I see our liberties and our freedoms are actually almost in the process of destroying us because we have someone manipulating them.
And if I want to expand on that a little bit, and this is more from the Christian perspective of going back when you're saying about our faith in God. You know, for those who are Christians, so to speak, and really understand Christian as far as Christ, the individual, you know, just before he died on the cross, the last words he said were, "Father, unto you I give my spirit," which is basically saying is that no matter what happened to me physically, mentally, emotionally, the one thing that man could not take or the devil could not have was my soul, my sense of self, my spirit. And that's what we need in the United States. We need to get our soul, our sense of spirit back, and we get that through believing in God and what he practices and believes in.
Very good point.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Christian or Jewish is still the same dude.
It is. I have one of my best friends is a Lutheran minister, and you know, and he'll say, "Oh, listen, your cousin said this," and that's the way he relates to it. You know, so it doesn't really bother me one way or another. You know, I mean, but to say that we can't practice Christianity, we can't practice Judaism because we're going to offend Islam. Hello, you know, there's something wrong with that picture.
Well, you know what the difference between Christianity and Judaism is to me? It's like when you know you have the Old Testament and you have the New Testament. I'm being very general about this. Well, basically, the Jewish people were following the Old Testament and they were doing things right. And then the Gentiles, they came around and they were messing things up, just doing whatever they wanted to. So that's when Jesus came, and there had to be a New Testament. So I think there's like a grandfather law in there, grandfather clause, where if you're Jewish and you were doing the right thing before the New Testament, the New Testament, I'm not going to say it doesn't apply, but it does. But as long as you're going with the Old Testament, there's no reason like if everybody was doing that, there wouldn't be a New Testament. Everything would be fine.
Yes, he probably wouldn't have come. The dietary laws have been they've been lifted, and sometimes I think that's a good thing. I wish that I could get past that, but I can continue. Well, I'll tell you a story. When I first got married, my late husband, God bless him, he is Catholic. I ate shrimp. I ate all kinds of shellfish. I ate pork roast. I ate everything. Until all I could hear was my daddy's voice yelling at me. Until finally, I had to stop it because my guilt wouldn't allow me to go forward. And I think what they said in regard to dietary laws, if you feel you must follow it, okay, for the Gentiles, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. I continue to follow that. But like you said, Mike, if you follow the laws set forth in the scriptures in Torah, everything else falls into place. Mm-hmm. And didn't Christ say, "I come not to change one dot, one tittle of the law"?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I think we can all get along here, but it seems as though that the Sharia law does not allow us that freedom.
No, and it's from the extremist perspective, and I guess going back to a man of faith, I say that goes back to what I'm saying about there's part of Islam that is not driven by these extremists.
And I have friends that are Muslims that are not this way at all.
Yes. So and that's the key, and that's what it's just bringing it all back together to that unification process. And that's why I guess for me it's I've always said this. I say, "Who's your campaign manager?" And I said, "You really want to know?" And they said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "God." Where he wants me, he puts me. What comes up, comes up. Trust me.
That really is
one, Andrew.
That really is the truth. Whatever your place is, God will put you there. And if you resist, things the free will thing. He's not going to force you to do something, but your life is going to suck until you do what he wants. And there's this one day. We've only got a few minutes left. We have 5 minutes left. I want to tell the story really quick. There was one day, God wanted me to do something, and I kind of knew, but I was like, no, I don't feel like it, And my whole day went like crap until eventually, just by circumstance, I was where I was supposed to be, doing what God wanted me to do, and the rest of the day went fine. And it was just like, yeah, if your place is in the U.S. Senate, Andrew, you're going to be there.
And I'm going to try to say this in real short as well. So speaking of that, real quick, in a minute. I went and dropped off my daughter daughter last year to start college in St. Angelo, Texas, Angelo State. On my way back, I'm talking to God in the car, and it's a drive back 72 miles. I'm by myself, and I'm telling God, what in the world am I doing? Why am I in this race? I can't, I can't be with, people who really don't believe in you and believe in what we want to do. But I said, if it's your will, let me know. A minute later, my cell phone rings. My wife's on the phone. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm driving back to San Angelo. She goes, well, I just got a call. Some guy just saw your sign on our car about Cast for Senate, and he wants you to give him a call as soon as you get into town so that he can help you out with your campaign. I hung up and said, okay, if that's what you want to do, let's go for it.
That reminds me, just quickly, it's another point. We're doing a campaign fundraiser for Andrew on Facebook. We're auctioning off a print. The print that's going to Andrew is the white Arabian, and we're auctioning off the opposite, the black Arabian, one of God's creatures, and that's why I like being an equine photographer, because this is just the Lord in all of His majesty. So if anybody really wants to help, to click into that event on Facebook and bid on that fine art as you clay print of Arabian Acres Ava, and then once that bid has been received by the Cast for Senate campaign headquarters, and I will frame, sign, and number that print, and I saved number 3 for that particular event because number 1 went out to parents and grandparents out in a North Hollywood benefit. Number 2 went to the horse's owner, and everything else is being numbered after this one so that the print for Andrew can come out with a high reading. And the white print that's going to Texas for the auction has a number 1. So if anybody, wants to bid on that, it's your donation, and then you get something for it.
How do they find you, Dolly?
Okay, I'm on Facebook. Just go into Facebook. Let me click into it right now, and then click on. Well, right now it says events with U.S. Senator, U.S. Senatorial hopeful. But click into Facebook. You can click on events, and it will come up, Cast for Senate fundraiser, or you can go into Facebook and click on Brennan Photography. On Brennan Photography, click on events. All you have to do is in the comment, place your bid with your name and contact information so that if your bid wins, and then keep checking on your bid to make sure that you're not outbid.
Okay, and Andrew, do you have a website, or are you just using your Facebook page? Do you want to get that out
actually, I do have a website. I have a Twitter page. I have Facebook. I have even a WordPress kind of blog page. It's a website.
Okay, what's your website address?
It's CAS4Senate.com, and I got a lot of my platform there.
CAS4Senate.com.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that on the page. I'm gonna write both of those addresses down on the page so when people come later they can just click on them and go right to you.
Okay.
And that address, by the way, I gotta plug my own stuff, is communicationcreations.com.
Well, now I've got to get a plug in here for USA for Israel. They just came out with some information. Hillary Clinton is sidestepping her United Jerusalem pledge. Does not surprise me. So we really need Cast for Senate. And Mike, you're going to put that out on your webpage, right?
Absolutely. Come on, put it every place I can. Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, we got 90 seconds. A little voice inside my phone just told me. Okay, so it's castforsenate.com, and it's Dolly Miller-Brennan, Brennan on Facebook.
On Facebook, And Brennan Photography.
Yeah, so just search for Dolly Miller-Brennan on Facebook and go to castforsenate.com, and those links will be posted on communicationcreations.com and thinklayouts.com and any other site that you guys know where to find me at. And I just want to make, I just want you guys to be able to find this Andrew Castanuela. Say your name, please. I'm having trouble pronouncing it.
It's kind of like music. I used to break it up in measures. Castanuela. Andrew Castanuela, and you can find him at castforsenate.com, correct?
Yep. And Mike, we thank you for bringing the hammer down on this campaign and pushing it forward.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
I'm going to have to start using it as a slogan. That's awesome, Dolly.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring the hammer down and people listen.
There you go. All right, great job, guys. Great job.
Okay, thanks so much, Mike. Thanks, Andrew.
All right.
Take care, Dolly. God bless, Mike.
Okay, God bless both of you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.